Hello and welcome to an update to the Yellow Vest situation in France. The TLDR in advance. White rural France is protesting against undemocratic technocrats. Rural working class had enough. Today is the 2nd of December 2018. It's the third weekend of protests in a row and the most violent so far. In this video I will read some good text from French annons on the different groups that have joined the movement. Other topics include the question if this yellow-black movement is libertarian, as well as the role of Le Pen so far. In the final part of this video I will present my very own analysis of the movement and describe a few plausible endgame scenarios that might occur. Let's begin. I see a lot of people forcing their understandings on the protesters. Communist, Nazi, Gatzen, Antifa. Let me take down each of these points. Communist. Leftist unions and political parties have failed to unite a clear majority against Macron for 18 months. Now that this movement emerged, they try hard to be in it. It's only 3 weeks after the protest started that a union has called for a strike. Why? Because the communist strongholds are in Paris racial suburbs. Just pick any electoral map. They don't care about rural France, who has increasingly started to turn far right. Nazi. There's as much Antifa, locally known as Black Blocs, as anti-Semite figure joining this. They portray this as a fight against Jewish taxation, theft and benefit from the fact that it's mainly a rural protest. Being rural means less diversity and stronger white base. While it is true that the movement is apolitical, and they beat the crap out of anyone singing the Internationale, the communist song, there's still no clear sign that this whole movement is far right. Gatzen. They're not protesting taxes. They are protesting a precise tax on fuel that they need to go to work, and a secession on lowering on welfare for retirees and workers. Basically, they're just working class who can't end the month with their salary, and this is their last resort. The tax is supposed to fight climate change, something only the city dweller care about because they have public transportation. They have not. In fact, postal service, maternity, police station all have been shut down where they live. Antifa. This is my favorite. While you focus on Paris burning, in the countryside, the 1,500 points, they have been clocking shopping mall for 3 weekends straight, Black Friday too, creating a 80% value-added tax loss for the state. Some factories have started to shut down because no part can be imported from blocked highways and harbors. 200 radar speed destroyed and toll paths sabotaged. Paris is just draining and exhausting anti-right forces.
The Internationale. Isn't it your anthem?
The Internationale is a communist worker song, our national anthem. The Marseillaise tell us to arms, citizens, form your battalions, let's march, let an impure blood water our furrows. Very communist indeed. First it was the abolition of fuel tax. Now it's a call for new elections.
Yellow and black. Are yellow jackets ANCAP libertarians? It is an anti-tax protest, right?
The concept of libertarianism is completely foreign to the French, besides a couple of meme lords. People are not protesting on the concept of taxation, but how the burden is spread, which is all the load on the middle class, but tons of loopholes for rich fags and new French.
Yeah, okay, sure thing. The French are better educated than Americans. But they don't know what the statue they gave us represents. Or the differences between the European and American libertarian schools. Or all sorts of political science that fits snugly into this whole basket. Getting the government off your back while demanding it does a better job and telling it to fuck off is not a uniquely French thing to do.
I'm serious though. You have to stop a lot of French in the street before finding one that can think that taxation is theft. Your immediate defiance towards state and taxation are explained by your American history, and history that's completely different to ours. Libertarians' view of the world is the least represented ideology in France. You'll have an easier time finding a monarchist, an idea that already sounds completely bogus to the French normie. Oh, and by the way,
the French are better educated than Americans.
No, they are not.
8 of 10 French oppose more migrants coming. Why doesn't translate itself into support for Front National?
Because the Rassemblement National, they changed the name, A has been portrayed as a racist anti-Semitic for decades. French people are neither of those. They just want peace and security. Therefore, they are very versatile on those questions. For instance, you could hear people saying, "Fuck it, I'm going to vote Front National" after the Bataclan attack, and they ended up still voting for Macron anyway. B, because Marine Le Pen is a retard who can't be bothered to actually make things better. She and her party are more surfing on the wave as discontent than actually leading it. I would like to thank this British Anon for spreading my last quick rundown like crazy. Thanks, chap, highly appreciate it. Now, what do I think of the Yellow Vests? From the point of view of the French government, this movement is a very hard test of their own leadership and population control skills. A test that they, as it seems of today, have failed. Normally, every possible opposition movement is either stopped by a honeypot operation or infiltrated by governmental agents. The goal is to gain a control of about 1/3 of the main operators of any movement. This is common practice in any state, and became very visible as in Germany, the state wanted to outlaw our right-wing party in the year 2001. During the process, it was revealed that most of the leading figures were so-called V-Männer, police informants. Let me rephrase it again. The majority of the leading heads of the most right-wing German party were all on the payroll of the German intelligence service. The end result was that the judges said that they can't make this party legal, well, because the party was secretly controlled by the German intelligence agency. I would not be surprised if the same is true for the French right-wing parties. But the Yellow Vest movement is special in this regard, because it has no clear leadership structure. There is just no leader to corrupt. Also, the movement is very politically diverse, so no single famous person, actor, politician can simply become the head of it and steer it into a different direction. Also, as stated by the Brazilian Anon, as it's the normal rural people rising up, the elites have big troubles understanding the movement, as the normal Parisian high society life of the elites has not much in common with the common people. Chapeau, dear baguettes, this mix is very rare. It's gonna require some smart moves or a lot of violence to stop your movement. Or maybe just the president lowering, read not increasing, the fuel taxes. The current stance of never ever backing down to the demands of the protesters will only add more oil to the fire. If increasing the fire is the intended method, then what could be their end goal? Just wait a few more weekends, wait for the death toll to rise and hope that the people will become tired of the violence? This would let the government look even more weak and not really solve the situation for the better. Or maybe have the hidden powers behind the curtain decided to let the movement go on for a while, for it to be a plausible excuse to fire Macron and buy time to prepare a new strategy and a new candidate for the new elections? Or do they want to let it escalate even further and use it as a pretense to finally bring in the European Union army to save the day? But I think that would have too many cons as for now. Something color revolution also seems unplausible as of today, especially because Macron is already the guy who held his victory speech in front of a pyramid. He is already part of the club, no need to violently regime change him out of his post. Why do they let the violence escalate? What is their end goal here? Or are they just incompetent and have completely lost touch with reality? First reports are coming in that Yellow Vest has been sighted on military barracks in France. So a military coup d'etat is also on the table of possible outcomes. So far, everything indicates to me that this movement did arise naturally by the people, for the people, against some special people. But as somebody said, never let a good crisis go to waste. The Yellow Vest movement will be instrumentalized. That's as sure as omelette du fromage. In the very worst case, it is the beginning of the end of the old system, the end that will bring in the dawn of the new crypto global world order, as this Anon suggests.
The globalists have doomed themselves.
Far from it. They need total escalation on the public side so that they can send in the troops who will paint the streets red. Afterwards, the liberators will emerge and proclaim that they intend to rescue the collapsed system with their cashless currency. The most plausible and peaceful way out for the French government would be to take over the movement by the following means. First, create a head of the movement. This means pick one guy and give him some media coverage. Then give him some primetime interview space. Let him be associated in the media and thus in the minds of the masses as the voice of the movement. That guy should be, of course, be pre-selected by the government as a guy that will play along to the end. Number 2. Build up this guy and see if the masses accept him, or if they see through your strategy. Here the observation of social media is key. Number 3. If the guy is not accepted, then release him and build up a new guy. Maybe try to use multiple people at once. Or maybe let the new guy become more believable by letting him point out that the first guy was a scam. Most people would not think that the government would try to use the same trick twice. Maybe. Number 4. When your own Yellow Vest guy is accepted by the people, then invite him to the royal palace and perform the ritual of hard negotiations. That's what the media should portray. Number 5. Agree on a weak compromise because of some important sounding reasons and say that the whole movement is now over. As for the exact wording of the compromise, careful analysis of social media data is key. It should be enough to pacify most of the people, but not all. It should be a weak compromise as to save the government's face, as well as to show the people that they just can't get everything they want by protesting. Proper media coverage before and after the negotiations are essential to get through with this plan. A bad assessment of the compromise could start the fire anew and is to avoid it at all costs. A failure here could mean new elections and no more rappers for Mr. Macron. Number 6. If, after the compromise, someone still does continue to protest, then he is to be marked as super illegal protester, because the movement had already its moment of success in the palace, and the people should go home now, it's over. The goal is to reduce the acceptance of the protesters in the public's eye, to make them look like they just want too much or they just are out to destroy things. Because the protesters got what they wanted, everyone who's still on the streets has to be a bad guy. Number 7. This optional step is only required if some pockets of protesters would not stop protesting. Now a big negative event with great media coverage needs to take place. This can be staged or just provoked. In the end, only the pictures in the evening news and morning newspapers are the only thing that matter. To achieve this kind of event, in the worst case the government has to use his own radical elements. That way a final blow could be set to the movement. The goal here would be to associate the movement with something really negative in the mind of the masses. The Yellow Vests? Oh no, they already got what they wanted and now they did this super bad thing. I don't want to be associated with them anymore. This could also have a positive side effect in the future. As in, oh, you're protesting, so you're like this Yellow Vest guy, so no, you're just gonna cause trouble. Step number 8. Step number 9. Profit. As for the protesters, from my point of view, the way to get most out of it would be to continue being a leaderless mob. That way it's gonna be very hard to lead the movement astray. Of course, the movement should try to remain as peaceful as possible and watch out for agents provocateurs amongst themselves. Godspeed, dear baguettes, stay peaceful and stay leaderless. Michael Red Pill out.